You're careful about what you eat and what products you use, and you want the same healthy life for your beloved pets. You've been searching the internet and social media for natural solutions to your pet's issues, and you're trying to find ways to prevent issues from cropping up in the first place. But everywhere you look, you find different answers, varied opinions, and you just end up more confused. Your pet is a part of your family. He deserves the best, and he deserves to live a long, healthy life. I'm here to tell you that it can be easy, that taking care of your pet naturally doesn't have to be a headache for you. I'm going to talk to you about everything natural wellness, including what to feed your pet, how to use herbs and essential oils, massage and hands-on techniques, meditation, communication, and energy healing. If it's natural, it's worth talking about. In this podcast, you'll learn everything you need to know about taking care of your pet naturally, for life. I'm Corinne, and this is the Enlightened Animal Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Enlightened Animal Podcast. So I am trying a new format. This is kind of going to be more like a coffee chat where we talk, or I talk to you about different subjects related to dog parenting and all sorts of different things. But instead of an interview format, I want to do kind of a coffee chat and just have a conversation with you. So this is going to be the first in that type of series. And before we get started, I have a funny little story. Well, I find it funny now, but I recorded this episode yesterday, and I actually recorded a couple episodes. This was the first one. Went really well. I was in the flow. I was talking, had a lot of ideas, and it was just a really good episode. Then when I went to edit, this particular episode had zero audio. It was just me by myself, moving my mouth, but no audio. So unfortunately, I have to record it again. And if you're watching this on video, you might see that I have a visitor, and now I don't. That was Lenny, one of my dogs. So this is also, I set it up this way so that my dogs can come in and visit if they so choose. So if you're watching this on YouTube instead of listening to the podcast, you might get to see special guest appearances from time to time. So this episode, I wanted to talk about cancel culture. Now, cancel culture in general at the moment is kind of a hot topic. Everybody is canceling everyone. If you say something wrong, if you do something wrong, you're canceled. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I realized that this actually really applies to dog parenting as well, and every domain in dog parenting. So, if you think about it, if you're not following the latest trend in dog training, you are kind of made to feel like you're a terrible dog parent. If you aren't, abandoning one type and evolving as fast as they would like you to and adopting a different type of training method, again, how dare you? You're terrible. What do you, who do you think you are? And there's all these battles online and everything. And I've been in the dog world for a really long time, over 30 years. So I've kind of been through every iteration of dog training, of what's the latest, what's supposed to be the best for your dog. And, and every time you're like, shoot, well, I've been doing it this way. Now I need to change. I can't believe I was such a bad dog parent. And you're made to feel really guilty about it. And I remember way back when, some of you are probably old enough to remember this. There was a time I had a rescue. I rescued a dog. His name was Ben. And I'm pretty sure he had chow in him. He had some black on his tongue. He was a mix of a bunch of different things, but he had a very strong personality. And I was a very soft and fluffy young girl. And I didn't really have a lot of presence, and I didn't really know what I was doing with dogs. And I heard that if your dog got in your face, if they acted, quote unquote aggressive, if they were showing any kind of quote unquote dominance, all these terrible words, that you were supposed to flip them on their back and hold them down. Yes, if you don't remember this, we were told to do this back in the day. And you were supposed to hold them down until they submitted so that they learned who was boss. And I did this with Ben. And I can tell you that I felt the blood leaving my body. The look he was giving me, I was so terrified. And as I was doing it, I was thinking, why am I doing this? But at the same time, I was like, well, no, I'm supposed to be doing this. And I just felt like the second I let go of this dog, he's just going to rip my face off. Looking back, in my mind at the time, I was like, oh my God, this dog is crazy aggressive and he's so dominant and blah, 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 because those were the words that we knew back then. Now I realize it was probably a combination of extreme fear because he was in the most vulnerable position. I had him on his back with his belly exposed because, you think about it, that's their softest, weakest spot. He probably thought I was going to kill him. What was I thinking? I don't know. I was just following what other people were telling me to do. Needless to say, when I finally let him go, I don't think I've ever run so fast in my life because I was convinced he was going to get, I thought, okay, I'm getting murdered today. And I never did it again. I learned my lesson the hard way. But that's what I'm saying is that, as we evolve, as we learn new methods, but so it's fine to evolve. I mean, I've evolved. Obviously, it's really good to evolve and learn. Sorry, if you are seeing the video, there's just legs in the air. It's another one of my dogs who's putting on a show. She wants to show what it looks like to be on her back. But anyways, we're meant to evolve. We're meant to change. We're meant to grow. We're meant to learn from our mistakes. But I don't think that we're meant to be shamed and guilted into change. I think that the healthy way to evolve and change and grow with your dog is by learning, by reading, by researching, by intuition, by feeling what's best for my relationship with my particular dog. And I don't really feel that that's the way the dog world is treating pet parents. And I'm kind of harping on dog training right now, but it's in all domains. Look at what's happening with nutrition right now. I mean, if you're not raw feeding your dog and making all their meals from scratch, you are a horrible person and your dog is going to die at least 4 years earlier than they should because you've just been feeding them this junk food diet their whole lives. How about a massive amount of shame and guilt and pressure put on dog parents to thinking that, oh my gosh, I'm killing my dog by giving them kibble. So, I'm a proponent of doing everything you can, the most natural and the best way you can. But that caveat is the way you can. Not everybody has the budget to feed raw, and not everybody has the facilities and the means or even lives in a location where they can have access to this. So I'm going to use myself as an example. Cancel me if you must. I currently have 4 dogs and I do not raw feed them. Now, I feed them in a different way, which I'll explain in a second, but I do what's best based on where I live. I live in France in a very, very rural area. The town I'm attached to has 200 inhabitants, probably most of them over the age of 80. I don't have access. I'm not near a big city. I don't have access to a lot of choice. In addition, in France, unlike in other English-speaking countries, like the UK and the US, I'm pretty sure Australia as well, there are like dog food, fresh, raw dog food, like supermarkets. I think I haven't seen them with my own eyes. I've just heard about them, where you can get pre-made raw, where you can get access to all sorts of ingredients and that sort of thing. Well, I don't have access to that here. And there are a few raw food companies that exist that do shipping. The shipping's very expensive and it's not pre-made. You still have to get chicken necks and turkey legs and organs and etc. And about 6 years ago, probably now, I was feeding raw. I had 9 dogs at the time. I know, crazy, right? And so I had multiple freezers because I was kind of guilted into it. And I thought, I'm a proponent of everything healthy. I live a holistic lifestyle. This is what I teach my clients. I kind of have to be a role model. So of course I have to do this as well. And I also felt like, that shame and guilt that all other pet parents feel. So I bought several freezers. I got as much food shipped to me as I could, but it wasn't enough and it wasn't balanced based on what they had available. So I was spending a lot of time at butcher shops and at slaughterhouses. And believe you me, I'm vegan, so going to a slaughterhouse is not a walk in the park for me. And I spent so many hours every week sourcing food. My weekends were completely shot because all I ever did on weekends was prepare meals, measure, weigh, make sure everything was balanced, get them in their little like containers for the upcoming week. It was insane. My life was dog nutrition and meal prep. And at a certain point, I realized I can't keep doing this. Plus, our electric bill just went through the roof with all the extra freezers that I needed to feed and store enough food for 9 dogs. So I finally just made the choice that, I wasn't going to continue doing this. And I actually hid it for a very long time because I thought, oh, if anybody finds out, I'm just going to pretend that I'm still feeding raw, because if anyone found out that I wasn't feeding raw anymore, again, I'm going to get canceled, right? So I did my research. I switched to a very, high quality kibble, the best I could find. And then I give my dogs, sardines multiple times a week. They get bananas and apples and carrots and all sorts of fresh food added onto their kibble. So they get all sorts of toppers. And so I feel like it's the best balance. It's a mix. They're not just eating kibble. They're not eating raw. They're eating a blend in between. The sardines that I give them are fresh from the market. They're whole. They're not filleted. So they have all the organs in there and the bones and everything. And I'm looking at them, and they're all older now. They're 9 to 12 years old, and their coats are magnificent. They look the same as they did when they were on raw. They are just as healthy. Their stool look small and nice and well formed and dark, just like they did when they were on raw. The only thing that maybe is not quite as magnificent is their teeth. They're not quite as shiny as they were when they were on raw. But at the same time, that was 6 years ago, and these, they're 6 years older. They're all seniors now, so their teeth aren't as beautiful as they were when they were younger, anyways. So, my point is, again, another area where we're shamed and guilted if we can't afford it, if we can't source it. And I want to change this. I want people to realize that, you have to follow your own path, and don't feel guilted and shamed and feel like you're a bad dog parent if you can't do what everyone is yelling at you through social media to do in order to be a good parent. And this isn't just limited to nutrition, to dog training. It rolls over into holistic living as well. And I'm 100% a proponent for living holistically, using natural supplements, using herbs, taking care of your dogs naturally, limiting chemical use, using alternative forms of therapy like energy healing and animal communication and osteopathy, as much as possible, but also realizing that there's certain things that need to be taken care of by vets, and vets have a very important role in your dog's healthcare. And I thought, oh, okay, well, in the natural realm, the holistic realm, there's not going to be this cancel culture. There's not going to be this shaming if you're not doing things exactly the way the person who's on the other side of the camera believes is the right way. But that's not the case. I don't know how many holistic groups I've been in, natural wellness groups, alternative health groups I've been in, where I've seen people shaming others, moderators and people who run training programs, shaming the people that are in these groups and telling them that, well, you should know better. And if you don't do it this way, how dare you? I can't believe you're using a chemical on your dog. I can't believe this. I can't believe that. And it's shaming and canceling as well. And in addition, I have this story. So my dogs are knocking things over behind me. This is going fabulously well today. I have a story of a client who has a dog and who she loves very much. She's very, very attached to her dog. They live together and they travel all over the world together. They're very, very connected. And her dog was doing wonderfully. And then overnight, she got really, really sick. She had mobility issues. She started getting bruises all over her body. It was really, really bad. And so she talked to me, and based on the symptoms, I told her what type of veterinary specialist I thought that she should go see, as well as going to see her regular vet. And so she made these appointments, but she had some time before her first vet appointment. So that morning, she was able to get in and see an osteopath. So she goes in to see this osteopath. So I'm like, great, holistic practitioner. And she went mainly for the mobility issues. So she goes in to see the practitioner, and he starts looking and manipulating the dog. And, initially he said something about, it's a herniated disc, which I thought was kind of a stretch considering he wasn't looking at x-rays or exams or anything. He was just touching the dog. So I thought, that's not great to be making that type of diagnosis without additional scans. But he makes this diagnosis. But then afterwards, he looks at her. She's obviously upset and emotional. And he tells her that he believes that her dog is sick because she's too emotional and she's too stressed out, and that if she doesn't change her thoughts and her attitudes and her behavior, her dog was going to get even sicker and more than likely die, and it would be her fault. What? I was floored. I was speechless. I didn't even know what to say to her except run and don't ever go back to this guy again. But I thought, wow, even in the holistic world, you're going to throw things out like that. And it's like, sure, if I'm stressed, my dog's going to feel the stress, and they're going to react to it. They're going to be more stressed because I'm stressed. That's normal. If I'm stressed out and my husband's around me, he's going to feel my stress as well. But I'm not going to make him get cancer, God forbid. But you see the logic behind it is obviously if you're living with someone, a human, and you're really stressed out about something, you're not going to make them sick. You might make yourself sick because we know that, bottled up emotions and stress and everything can turn into physical symptoms, but you're not going to make someone else have a disease or die because you're dealing with stress. No different than with your dogs. Yes, they're going to feel your stress and they're going to react to it, and they might be more whiny and barky and wound up and nervous because you're nervous. Sure. But to tell someone that their dog could die and it would be their fault because of their emotions, how much shame and guilt and cancel culture is that? I was amazed. And this needs to stop. And so I told her, I said, try to think positive thoughts, try to take some deep breathing, meditate, relax, because it's going to help her feel calmer and more relaxed as well. And that's just going to help both of you. But I told her, don't think that your dog is going to die because of what you're thinking and your emotions. And who hasn't had the worst case scenario thought when their dog gets sick? I do all the time because we love our animals and we don't want them to be sick. So when something happens, you immediately go to the worst thing. You don't go, it's nothing. Who doesn't get upset when their dog is sick? So, and ended up that her dog has leishmaniasis, which is an illness that is that dogs can get from mosquito bite in this part of the world, and of course natural supplements and that sort of thing can't help. It can support, but it can't cure. So obviously she was in good hands. She went to her specialist and they were able to put her on medication, and she's doing much better now, and she's healing slowly day by day. But, this idea of pressuring people into doing a certain thing, into acting a certain way is very unhealthy and unhelpful. And I think that, it's one of the reasons that I am creating a program called Soul-Led Dog Parenting. And it's really to offer a place for people to learn about all sorts of things where they can take into account all aspects, whether it's veterinary medicine or nutrition or, herbal medicine or energy healing, and learn things so that they can be a better advocate for their pet, but at the same time, using objectivity and non-judgment and meeting people where they're at and removing this guilt from them about how they should be with their pets and how they should, act, and how they should train and how they should feed and everything else, and all the myriad of different avenues where we can find people being shamed and guilted into being a certain way with their pet. And I look at it like, we're each on our own path, and we each have our own individual relationship with our dog. We each have our own energy patterns. They have their own energy and aura. And each one of them, they're not little robots, and each one of them has life lessons and a life, journey with us. And we just need to honor that. And depending on the dog that we have in front of us and the person that we are, we need to hone into our intuition and learn to trust ourselves in what we're doing with our pets. And speaking of that, don't miss out on the next episode, which will be out 2 weeks after this one, because I talk more about that, about animals' energy and auras, and how we can learn more by reading their animal design of when they were born, how we can learn more about them, about their energies and about who they are as a being, and how they interact with us and how they teach us lessons as well. So it's going to be a fascinating episode. So definitely tune in for the next episode to find out about more about that. I'm very excited about it. But so anyways, enough of me ranting, but I just wanted to, get you to understand that, please don't feel bullied into doing things that you either can't afford or you don't feel comfortable with, or that's not where you are in your life. Trust yourself and trust your intuition, and trust your pet. Listen to them and get feedback from them on what is right for your relationship. And to end this, I was reading a book the other night that has nothing to do with dogs. It's called The One Thing. If you haven't read it, it's a great book for life, for business, for everything, actually. But there were a couple little passages, very short. Don't worry, I'm not going to read you a chapter. But I felt that they were very appropriate in relation to this conversation. And I just wanted to share them with you. So the first one is this little story. One evening, an elder Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside all people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside of us. One is fear. It carries anxiety, concern, uncertainty, hesitancy, indecision, and inaction. The other is faith. It brings calm, conviction, confidence, enthusiasm, decisiveness, excitement, and action." The grandson thought about it for a moment and then meekly asked his grandfather, "Which wolf wins?" The old Cherokee replied, "The one you feed." Isn't that appropriate? Remember these two wolves inside of you. And which one are you going to feed? Are you going to feed the fear and the anxiety and the uncertainty and the hesitancy by listening to all of these, professionals telling you, you must do this, you must do that, and if not, you're a bad parent? Or are you going to listen to faith and have confidence and conviction and excitement about your relationship with your dog? I think it's a beautiful analogy. It's a beautiful way to look at our relationship with our dog and use it as kind of a guiding light. And the other little passage is there was a book that was written in 2012 by Bronnie Ware, and it's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And she spent several years caring for people who were facing their own mortality, and she really questioned them about any regrets they had or anything they wish they would have done differently. And what's fascinating is there's one regret that stood out above all else, and it was I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. So there you have it. Live the life that is true to you. Live the relationship with your dog that is true to you, and not what others expect, not what others tell you. Do what's in your heart. Trust your intuition, trust your dogs, trust your relationship, and that will guide you down the right path. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was really fun kind of getting into the weeds with you. And, if you liked it, please like and share and subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes of the Enlightened Animal Podcast. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm available at enlightenedanimal.com. And my social channels are also Enlightened Animal on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. And I look forward to the next episode. Have a lovely day and give your dogs a big hug from me. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you're the kind of person who likes to help others, then share this with your friends and family who have pets. If you have found value, they will too. If you have questions, I'm here to help. Email me questions at contact@enlightenedanimal.com, and I may use your question for a future podcast episode. If you want more, check out my website at www.enlightenedanimal.com. Finally, I have a personal request. Please leave a review wherever you're listening to this podcast, ideally a positive one, so we can reach more people and help more animals' lives. Thanks for listening.